Hi gang, so in this video I am going to compare my regular eyeshadow application technique with a newer technique. So a couple of weeks ago I signed up for some online makeup classes with the company House of Glam Dolls. House of Glam Dolls is primarily a place that offers makeup courses for aspiring makeup artists and people who have like some sort of background in it. It also does have their own range of cosmetic products, also very geared towards working makeup artists. Disclaimer, I am not a working makeup artist. I do not intend to be a professional makeup artist in the future. And I am also not affiliated, nor am I sponsored in any way, shape, or form to talk about these classes or these courses. I just wanted to share it with you because, well, this is my, like my channel name suggests, it's my makeup diary, and any evolution that I go through and any, new things that I try out in regards to makeup, I do want to kind of document and just share. They are a UK-based company. So I signed up for a trio of classes, each lasting about an hour long. The person that was going to instruct me, his name is David Horn, and if I'm not mistaken, he is the founder of House of Glam Dolls. So the trio of classes already had some set topics for me to take. I took what was called the Understanding Bundle. I did write him an email saying that I'm not a professional makeup artist and I don't intend to become one, and I'm just a layperson that's really interested in makeup and wants to kind of expand my knowledge in general. So when we had our first session, he did offer me the option to swap out a couple of topics because he said that those two topics in particular were more geared towards working makeup artists and it probably would not suit my needs. So he offered me the option to swap them out for some other topics. Another thing that I found helpful was that during the lessons, during the course of the 3 days, he did personalize his advice in terms of makeup for me specifically. So we talked about the symmetry of my face and because of my ethnicity, how my face shape would differ from, let's say, a Caucasian person's face, and how placement of eyeshadow and blush and contouring would enhance my particular features better. Another thing that we did specific to me was that he asked me to send over some pictures of makeup that I had done on myself, and he critiqued what I did. So that was a general overview of the classes that I took. And now I'm going to do contrasting techniques, eyeshadow application techniques on my right and my left eye. And at the end of it, I will let you know my thoughts on how well I think the newer technique works and what I would like to incorporate in my future makeup looks. So this eye, I'm going to do the method that David was recommending to me. And on this eye, I'm just going to do it the way that I normally do. And bear in mind that this eye will probably be faster in terms of application because I'm so much more familiar with using this technique. So I'm using the original eyeshadow primer potion from Urban Decay, and I'm gonna start with this eye first, with the method that I'm most familiar with. So I'm just going to spread out my primer potion here all over the lid and some on the bottom lash line as well. Okay, I'm gonna take the shade Rust, which is right here, and I'm gonna place that on the kind of outer V of the eye. And I'm using a blending brush from Esom. This is the S33 brush. So my method is usually to pack and blend at the same time with a blending brush. And I usually create this kind of rounded outer shape as opposed to like a wing winged out eye look. Gonna go in with the shade Tarnish. On my flat packing brush, this is the Zoeva Luxe Smoky Shader. Gonna spray that down with some setting spray. And then I'm gonna pack it onto the inner corner of the eye. Okay, then I'm gonna add a little bit of this shade, which is called Redox. This shade right here. And I'm gonna put that kind of right next to the matte shade. Kind of in between those two shades. Then I'm gonna reinforce that matte outer shade with the shade Rust again. Just lightly blend the edge of that Redox shade. This is the Luxe Pencil 230 from Zoeva. Gonna take the Rust shade, kind of smudge it out. Esom S31. And again, going in with the shade Tarnish. Layering Redox in the middle. Diffuse the perimeter of the eyeshadow. So I'm going to take the two lighter shade Classic and Antique and just mix them together and kind of try to diffuse that outer corner. I'm going to take this basic shade, which is French Fizz. It's a highlighter shade from the Laura Geller Life Glows On highlighter palette. Just going to put that right in the inner corner of the eye. I'm happy with that. So for this eye, I'm going to use the method that I was taught. So I'm going to use the Urban Decay Eden Eyeshadow Primer Potion. David recommended this primer potion specifically because he said that it would give me a more opaque base and I would be able to see my blending mistakes more clearly. Whereas the original primer potion has a more translucent base and therefore it's a little bit more forgiving when it comes to any sort of blending mistakes that I've made. Put some product on the back of my hand and then take a finger and kind of pat that into the eye, making sure that the surface is very well blended and smooth, especially in the inner corner where there might be some patchiness or, you know, dry skin, things like that. And also to take it on the outer corner of the bottom lash line roughly. Next up, I'm going to grab a flat packing brush. Okay, I'm going to go into the Rust shade again, kind of lay the brush kind of this way, kind of parallel to my face, and press in the color. Really stamping it on to get the full pigmentation effect. I'm taking it quite far out because the shape I'm going to do is more of a wing shape. 237 detail shader brush. And I'm going to go in with the shade Tarnish again. Press the shade in. So I'm not quite sure how high I should take it because in the practice session we were doing a cut crease. So this is obviously not a cut crease. I'm just kind of layering shadows on top of each other. So I think now it's kind of up to me how high I want to take the shadow. And I feel like there's a lot of empty space right here. Let me just take it a little bit higher. So I'm going to reinforce that shade with kind of a blending brush like this, the matte outer shade. Kind of blend the edges a little bit. So definitely this part looks very heavy, but I will be angling it up a little bit more. Let me try to correct it. Like I said, I'm not as familiar with this technique as I am with this one. So it will take me a while to kind of get used to what I'm trying to do. I'm going to take a brush and kind of angle the eye upward. So I'll throw up on the screen the kind of shape that he was recommending to me, what I typically do and what he would recommend for me and my eye shape. Based on my initial impressions when I saw the shape that David prefers, is that it looked very editorial. And you can kind of imagine that as a kind of look in maybe of like a high-end magazine or something like that. I'll throw up some examples to kind of emphasize my point. So for me, I felt that that was a significantly jarring difference from the way that I typically do my eyeshadow. It's not as trendy to see that kind of shape on just mainstream everyday, you know, people that like makeup, as opposed to kind of like a high fashion, you know, East Asian model with that kind of just very elongated look eye, that elongated eye. Oh, that's what I meant. So these are the contrasting eyes. And I haven't put on any other makeup. My face is completely bare. It's just about the eyes at this point. I just got Martin to kind of comment on my eyes, and he said that he, in principle, in general, he did like the effect of this better, but he did like that this eye had a little bit more of the kind of darker tone on the outside to contrast with the shimmer on the inside. He felt that this one was a bit too overpowered by the shimmer. And he also felt that this eye looked a little bit more defined in the sense that there's a clear shape to it. And I guess in that sense, he didn't really feel like that was necessarily a good or bad thing, but it's just, it really depends on the kind of vibe that you want to give off. Okay, so for my opinion, I think that I would like to combine both. Frederick. Hi. So I would like to combine both of these techniques in my future looks. So here's my reasoning for it. So the first thing that I noticed that with the Eden eyeshadow primer, prior to having any of the classes with David, I would use the Eden eyeshadow primer if I was working with very sheer kind of pastels and I wanted a very strongly pigmented effect on the eyes. And with pastels, sometimes that's difficult to get. unless you have extremely fair skin. So the Eden eyeshadow primer would be for those specific situations. And I always felt that I got a better result from the original eyeshadow primer potion. And he did mention that that's probably because of the translucent nature of the primer potion. It's less easy to spot any sort of flaws or mistakes. So if you want to kind of really hone your blending skills, the use of the Eden eyeshadow primer is what will help you to would force your hand into practicing and really getting that blend right. So that is one point. In terms of the use of the method of packing on the eyeshadow with a flat packing brush as opposed to going in with a blending brush, packing the shadow and blending at the same time, I can see the reasoning why he encouraged me to use the packing method. And when he was talking about it, he was talking in terms of time sensitivity. And he said that with this method, you can quickly get the pigment on as concentrated as possible, and you don't have to, keep layering and layering and layering. And in that sense, I think he was speaking from the perspective of a makeup artist. So if you are a working makeup artist, and let's say you have to do the makeup for a variety of models in a quick or in a shorter amount of time, to pack on the pigment makes a lot more sense. Because then you don't have to spend that time layering and going back into the product as much. And as a professional makeup artist, your blending skills should already be quite up there, quite good, to be able to be a makeup artist. For a lay person, obviously, there isn't that time sensitivity to quickly get things done, quickly get that pigmentation on and work through an eye look really fast. For a lay person like me, I have the leisure of taking 30 minutes, an hour to do my makeup. I can sit there and blend for forever. So in that sense, I think I'm more comfortable with the method of building up the shades with a blending brush, because in the end, I feel like it gives me an easier time kind of diffusing the shade, diffusing the eyeshadow in the way that I like. I do like a very diffused look. And using this method with the Eden eyeshadow primer potion, with the packing brush method, going after the fact to try to blend the edges, the eyeshadow is more fixed there already, and therefore it's more stubborn, and it doesn't want to blend as well or as easily as with this eye and with this blending brush. I feel that this technique of using the blending brush would serve me a lot better. In terms of using the primer potion, I think for my videos, for my YouTube videos, when I'm actually doing makeup for you guys, I don't consider my videos specifically a eyeshadow tutorial, but there are kind of instructive elements to my videos. The people that are watching will have varying levels of skills in terms of eyeshadow application. So if you are a beginner, or maybe you are just in general not that skilled in terms of blending and things like that, I feel like the combination of the blending brush and the original eyeshadow primer potion is an easier combination, and it would give you a nicer effect in the end. As a layperson who isn't a makeup artist and isn't intending to go into makeup artistry, if you're just doing this for yourself, you're watching my videos just for fun, just to look at some interesting color pairings, and maybe you want to follow along with some of the things that I do, then I think this method is perfectly fine. However, in my spare time, when I am trying to practice and trying to hone my skills, using the method of the Eden eyeshadow primer potion would be a better way to kind of up my skill level in terms of blending, and I do see that point, and that is something that I will intend to do in my private time. In terms of the packing technique, however, I don't see a benefit for me personally to use that technique because, like I said, I'm not under time pressure, and I feel that as a layperson, if at the end of the day my goal is to get a very diffused look, then the method that I've used seems to serve me quite well in terms of the brush that I use and how I pack and blend at the same time. And I also have tried in the past to use the packing method. That was pretty much what I did exclusively prior to using the blending brush to pack and blend at the same time. I was exclusively using the packing method and then blending after the fact. So that was what I used to do. I feel that this particular technique serves me much better, and it serves me well as like a regular person just doing their own makeup. In terms of the shape, now here's what I think about the shape. So I think the winged out look is more flattering in general. The shape, at least, is more flattering on my eyes as opposed to this eye. However, I feel as if that the blend definitely looks a lot better, and that's also because of the technique that I used, which is pack and blend, pack and blend. And this one was kind of just pack, pack, pack and try to blend it after the fact. That didn't turn out as well for me. And also, I think from David's point of view, he was the shape that he recommended to me is very editorial. It's a little bit more abstract, it's a little bit more graphic. In that sense, I think I would want to kind of go more towards this elongated eye, but also more diffused. And yeah, in general, I think if I found a happy medium between this shape and this kind of smoked out effect, I would be quite happy with it. Also, he did mention that based on my pictures that I sent, he felt that I was kind of replicating a lot of, the common Instagram makeup trends. I have to also take that into consideration as to like what I personally find aesthetically pleasing. So in that sense, I do want to experiment with this more elongated eye and kind of tweak it as I go along and see what I find is ultimately aesthetically pleasing to me and just generally what I like, what I find fun. I also did recently get some of the House of Glam Dolls color wheels, as well as a kind of mixing medium for foundation and a setting powder. So I will also have a video talking about these products and what I think of them. And yeah, I'll link it down below whenever that's up so that you can check it out as well if you're interested. So lastly, what did I think of the House of Glam Dolls courses overall? So from my experience, I felt like I did come away with a lot of new information. However, I was not the target student because I'm not a makeup artist and I don't intend to become one. And a lot of the course material is kind of built around, nurturing eventually working makeup artists, and I don't fall into that category. So I would say if you are in that kind of field and you have an interest in expanding your knowledge a little bit more, these might be classes that would be good to look into. If you are a layperson with kind of very basic makeup skills and understanding, then I don't think this would serve you as well as maybe a kind of general, simpler type of class on certain topics that you might be interested in. The House of Glam Dolls, they do have specific classes on defining brows and lining eyes and placement of lashes and things like that. But I think that's a little bit more all-encompassing in terms of being a makeup artist as opposed to just doing your own. So if you are a layperson, you have kind of like a very entry level understanding of makeup, and you want to, find better ways to do an eyebrow that suits your eye shape, things like that, I would suggest that you continue to look on YouTube, because there are plenty of tutorials on how people do, certain aspects of makeup. And look for a person that has a similar kind of facial structure to you. I think that's the best advice I can give. And if you like that specific aesthetic that person, has, then you could practice using their tips and their tutorials. Obviously, I have a specific face shape and I can't alter that to, be similar to yours. But there are kind of general basic rules in terms of maybe like eyebrows. Like, I think most people have already come across that rule of the brow should start here, the brow should arc right here, and the tail should end right here. But there are also differences in terms of like thickness of the brow, thinness of the brow. Right now, there's a trend towards really bushy brows. In Korea, there's a trend towards the straight brow on females. Those kinds of things, I guess you will have to experiment with yourself and find out what you think suits your face and your personality and your expression. If you do, however, possess a little bit more skill and experience in terms of makeup, but you are not a trained makeup artist, or you don't intend to become one as I was, if you're interested, you can check out the website and maybe drop an email and ask if this combination would be suitable for your needs, and ask what you could gain from it, and maybe specify what you would like to gain from it, and if they could cater that to your experience and your needs. But I wouldn't just sign up like right off the bat, because like I said, the House of Glam Dolls is more towards working makeup artists. And I did get some very useful tips and tricks. I did pick up a color wheel that David was talking about, and this will help me kind of come up with more interesting color pairings that are complementary. I will probably go into some of the kind of color combination decisions that I make in the future with the help of the color wheel. Prior to this, I just kind of looked at a palette and went, I think this color looks nice with this, and I would just put it on my eyes because and I had a rough I did have a rough idea about color theory in terms of, the opposites are very complementary to each other and they would look good together. That was kind of my very rudimentary understanding of color theory. And now there's a little bit more that I got from the color theory class, which I really enjoyed. And yeah, I will be incorporating that in my future looks. Also, in my future videos, I probably will incorporate some of the information that I took from the classes, and share what I think is helpful and informative for a layperson like yourself. And hopefully you will learn along with me as I continue to experiment. So I think that wraps up this video. That's it for me. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found this informative. Let me know if you have any questions about my experiences with the class, and I'll try my best to answer them. Also, I'll link David's Instagram down below if you want to follow him. His Instagram is a little bit more kind of in the artistic direction. He does post like kind of interesting images, interesting pictures in terms of composition and varying colors that complement each other, things like that. In terms of the courses that House of Glam Dolls offers, I have seen classes on things like 1940s fashion, 1940s makeup, 1950s makeup, those kinds of things. And I think those are quite interesting. Also, there are classes on how to start a basic makeup artist kit if you are thinking of going into the makeup artist profession. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions. I'll be glad to answer whatever questions I can. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and ciao for now.